So bringing in our next card, and I am just in love with this. Now the color palette here is our Fresh Freesia, which is one of our new in colors. It's a very, very soft lavender. We have an iridescent snowflake here in the background. We have some Fresh Freesia design cardstock and Fresh Freesia in color ribbon. And we have a very simple snowflake pattern again on the inside and some simple words that are here. Now the greetings from this cute stamp set again comes from Peaceful Deer. And I have used the Merry Christmas on the outside. And on the inside, I have used Wishing You a Wonderful Year and Friendships Dear. Now, let me show you the pieces and parts to all of this. And the only stamping we're going to do is going to be our greetings and our snowflakes. Why is that? Because we're going to actually fussy cut the images from the designer paper. You get the kits from me with a minimum $35 purchase by next Tuesday. And I'm going to provide the pieces and parts for you, but if you're doing these at a later time and making more of these cards, you do need to know the measurements. So you do need a piece of Fresh Freesia cardstock, if this is the pattern of paper that you use, that is 1 inch by 6 inches. I'll come back and show you what we're using to get this image. Now you're going to need 3 pieces of designer paper, and let me show you how they are fashioned on the paper. They lay this way. It's kind of hard to see that with all of our images on there, but the sizes for these are 3 3/4 by 1 1/2. This is 2 1/2 by 2 1/2. And this piece is 1 inch by 3 1/2. You'll need another strip that is 3/4 inches wide, just long enough to stamp the Merry Christmas image here. A piece of scrap white, we'll cut a circle. I'm going to show you what these dies are used to make those. And then you need a 5 1/4 by 4. That's what we're actually going to layer the top of the card with. So you need that on the top. And then you're going to need a card base, and I used basic white thick cardstock, which is 8 1/2 by 5 1/2, scored at 4 1/4. And this again is a 1/2 sheet of basic white cardstock, thick white cardstock. Now, because this has been scored and yours will be scored, you will simply need your bone folder to get a nice crisp edge on your card base. Now, one more element on the card, that's these iridescent snowflakes. And they come in a pack. They're also under the Whimsy and Wonder Suite in the catalog. You'll find these. They are called the Wonderful Snowflakes. And they are wonderful. There's a pack of 24. You pop them out, and then you can add them to your project. And they are an iridescent white. They're a beautiful color. You can kind of see the shimmer and shine on the camera. So they're iridescent and they're beautiful on this project. And that's the frame behind Mr. Snow Bear. So let me show you what we're using to die cut these 2 images. We are using a circle from the Layering Circles dies. So you can layer them up if you'd like. I've chosen the scalloped die to make this circle. And again, that's for the greeting on the inside of the card. So that's where this comes into play. And then this die, and if you saw my last video with the color and contour frames, this comes from that set. And so I'm using this scalloped edge, and I want to show you, this is actually how it cuts it out. It leaves it connected on the end. So we're going to take our scissors when I find them. Here we go. And you simply trim off the end, just like that. Now we won't use the full width of the scallop. I'll show you that in just a few moments on how that's going to work. So that's the scallop contour die frame. Now, I'm not going to take time on camera to die cut these for you. They're very straightforward and simple. My only tip here is that use a Post-it note to hold this on, or if you're using your magnetic plate, it should hold fine, and you should be able to put it right through the cutter. Let's talk about stamping just a little bit for this card, and then creating the elements that we need. What is so great about this designer paper is that you can punch Mr. Penguin out of some of the papers. But unfortunately, there is no die or punch for Snow Bear or Mr. Fox. But I want to show you an easy way to fussy cut these. Get a pencil that has a good eraser, and don't go right up to the edge, but just draw a pencil line around the edge of the object that you want to fussy cut, so that your scissors have something to follow. Because if you don't, you're going to end up cutting entirely too close to the animal itself. And you want to be able to leave just a little bit of an edge around the object that you are fussy cutting. See how fast this goes? Now, when it's all said and done, you can use the good eraser that you have on the end of your pencil and just erase any marks that you need to. Now, I don't need to do that for Mr. Penguin because I'm going to punch him from the paper. So that's going to be great. Now, to save some time, I have already I've already fussy cut these objects, and so they're ready to go. But let me show you, I have Mr. Penguin left over, and I need to be able to get Mr. Penguin inside the punch. And if I try to put him in there now, I don't really have much to hold on to. So I'm going to give myself a little bit of a handle. This paper is pretty long. I'm just going to take a little piece of scrap paper and make myself a handle on the end so that I can get the object into the punch, like so. Can you see what I'm doing? Now, when you use punches, you want to turn them upside down so that you can see the object that you are punching. And when you're satisfied where it's at, you get a nice, clean, and simple punch. And now I can throw the little handle and this away. Now you'll get a piece just like this in order to make your card. And I would highly recommend that you put the pencil marks around the image. And that would apply to any of the images that have a punch. If you have a die, if there's a die for your designer paper, it's going to fit around the image perfectly. But when you have to fussy cut, that's when the pencil marks are very helpful. Okay? Let's do that little bit of stamping. So we want to stamp our snowflakes, our inside image, and then our Merry Christmas. So I have used Gorgeous Grape. I wanted something to contrast the Fresh Freesia color. So I brought in Gorgeous Grape stamp earlier when we were stamping this block. So now I'm going to remove these stamps and set them aside. Actually, I would recommend that if they're clean that you put them right back into your stamp case so that you don't lose them. Again, I'm going to kind of walk this around and tap, 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 holding all four corners, using my grid paper to help me straighten my scrap. And I'm going to give just enough room at the end to make my banner. So I'm going to stamp this right in the center, hold it there for a second, straight back up. Now, the Banners Pick-a-Punch is the best way to get a good clean edge on this strip. So to see what I'm doing, again, I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to slide it in the channel. Now, if it's not as close as I would like it to be, and it's not, I'm going to just slide it right back in, and I will be able to see a little bit of the paper. And I want to do that one more time. Perfect. So that's the Banners Pick-a-Punch. There are two designs in the punch. I want you to be able to see that. So one makes a flag end and one makes a pointed end. And there are 3 channels. So I have 1 inch, 3/4 of an inch, and then a 1/2 inch of paper that will slide into these channels and give me a perfect banner every time. I love our tools. Set that here. Now I'm going to simply make a straight edge on this piece, and that's what will go right on the edge of my card, like so. All right, I'm going to set that element aside. Now still want to do a little more stamping. So we've die cut our circle from our scrap of Whisper White, and now I can put my inside greeting. Tap, 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 all around the pad. I'm going to go straight down, hold it for a second, and straight back up. And I've got a great image. All right, now I think we can begin the inside of our card, which would be our snowflakes. And you'll notice that even though we traditionally write on this side of the card, I have stamped snowflakes everywhere. So I'm going to randomly stamp them. You can stamp one time and then stamp again, and you'll have a lighter image. I'll do that one more time up at the top. Okay, we're good. I love the snowflake image. And we're ready to attach this to the inside. And we already have a lot of dimension on the front of the card, so I'm going to leave this element flat. Get my glue going again. It only takes a little bit. Be sparing with your green glue. It doesn't take a lot. All right, so we have all of our stamping done. With that in mind, I am going to close up my stamp pad because that could be a catastrophe. So let's work on this front panel. And we want to build it from the bottom up. So I have this piece, and the easiest way to place these papers and get a margin around them would be to start at the bottom. Start right at the bottom. And when I say a little bit of green glue, I want you to observe how much I actually put on the back. If you put too much glue, then you're going to have wavy lines in your designer paper, and you don't want that to show through. Our designer paper is too pretty to do that. Now this is where the others need to be even, with just a little bit of margin at the top. So if you find that you may have trimmed it incorrectly, simply take your scissors and trim off just a bit on the top of your designer paper. All right, I think I wanted that a little shorter. Now notice I'm lining up my designer paper on this edge. So start with the bottom piece and then do the 1-inch piece. Now because I'm using green glue, I can slide this around just a little bit. And I am leaving a little bit of a margin here. Then the square piece needs to line up with the one on the top, and then it needs to leave the margin here. Okay? So this was our 2.5 by 2.5 piece of designer paper. This would be a great card layout using any designer papers and any occasions like birthdays. You may have some designer paper that would look super cute to use 3 different patterns. We wanted to keep this soft because we wanted our focal point to be our animals on the card, but it certainly is a great way. And you could stamp the greeting in this spot, but I've chosen this spot for my ribbon. So once you have those adhered, remember, start with the bottom, then this piece, and then this piece. Okay? The next thing we need is our scallop. And you'll notice I have the scallop coming to the edge of this piece on my card. This divot and this divot should line up perfectly. So I'm only going to put glue between these pieces here. Let me show you again. See how that works right on the edge? This is even and this is even, and I love that. So my glue is going to go here. Don't worry about the length of it. We're going to take care of that in just a moment. So I'm going to line this up on my grid paper and make sure it's straight so my scallop will be straight. Perfect, perfect. I'm simply going to flip this over. Make sure that's adhered well. I'm going to flip this over and trim it off. And we're all set. So now we have our nice scalloped border on our card. And remember, we're working from the bottom up. So the very next thing we need is our iridescent snowflake. And again, these just pop right out of the paper. Now I don't want to tear them, so I'm gonna be a little gentle and work my way out. It kind of pops out of the bottom better than it does the top. So with the iridescent side facing up, you may want to pop it out of the bottom. So as to not tear these beautiful snowflakes. Now, just to let you know, our big snowflake die set did carry over from last year. So if you do not have the iridescent, maybe you bought the snowflakes last year, and they would be beautiful if you simply die cut. Now, this is almost the shape of our dimensionals, so needless to say, I am going to pop this up onto my card with the dimensional. I'm not going to try to use any kind of glue on the snowflake because my animals are going to hold the image down. Oh, I almost forgot. Almost forgot, folks. We need to put our ribbon on next. I'm glad I didn't forget because I actually want to wrap this around the back of my card. So let me trim off a piece. And I have found that using Scotch tape really is the easiest way. Plain old Scotch tape. Nobody's going to see it on the back of the card. So really it's the best way to add ribbon around the edge of your card. And Mr. Snowflake got stuck on me there. Okay. All right, so now that I have that adjusted, I am going to put my snowflake on now, and then I'm going to make my bow. Now be careful when you place your snowflake. Let me show you. We've not attached this yet, but I want to make sure that I'm not hanging over on this side, because if I do, then that's really going to get mashed every time it goes in and out of an envelope. So I don't want that to happen. So it's good to know where you're putting that. You have just a little bit of space. Now when you tie your ribbon, you are simply tying a bow in the air. I've made a loop. This is how I do it, okay? I make a loop. I take a piece back and around, keeping it flat, going in the same direction, and only pull on one side. And slide it off your finger. Give it a quick trim and use, you can play with it a little bit more and use your glue dot to attach it to your card. This ribbon is very forgiving and easy to work with. You want to get your glue dots. We used those on the last project, and you probably want to get 2 of those. That's a really nice strong hold on your card, and you can kind of put that sideways. Perfect. All right, that's so delicate. Now we want to build with Mr. Bear in the back. Again, I want my snowflake to frame him in the back. So kind of have, when you place it on there, again, be watching this side and kind of have that snowflake coming out of the back when you put him down. Now, I would not use dimensionals on him. I would use glue. Wouldn't use a lot, but I would use glue because we need to use a dimensional on our other 2 characters. He's going to naturally lay down anyway, just like this one. So Mr. Fox would go here, and I would definitely use a dimensional on Mr. Fox. And I would use the dimensional on this side of his body, on this side. So put your dimensionals there, because we're going to put the dimensionals on the penguin on the other side, and we want there to be even height on our card. So it looks like they're just kind of cuddling around at the bottom of Mr. Bear. You have the stamp set. You would stamp the scarf and you would fussy cut the scarf. But in this case, I'm going to cut that out of Mr. Snow Bear here. I need a smaller scarf. I don't need a big one. So again, I'm turning the paper. And I love these sharp paper snips because they get up into the corners. Now I'm going to trim off some of the paper. It'll be easier to cut. Now there's no way on these scarves to cut the fringe. So that's just as cute as can be. So I'm going to put a little bit of glue on the back, green glue. Love how that looks. Now I want to put this penguin up on dimensionals as well. The great thing about this stamp set and this paper is that you can use your imagination and play. And I'm going to slide that there. And then you can get all of the wonderful characters that you want on your card. Now let's attach Merry Christmas. We have that stamped, and I am going to put dimensionals again on the back. I love how that looks with dimensionals. So I'm going to go all the way to the right edge on this. What a cute, cute card. Such a happy, cheerful card. Now remember, this could say Merry Christmas, but it says, I'm sorry, it could say Happy Birthday. Right now it says Merry Christmas. This may be an easier way for me to do this. Then I can make sure I have that good margin all the way around. And there we go, folks. Card number 2 is done. Now give me just a moment to get some things out of the way, and we will do our very last card. Okay, let me show you our next card. And I really, really love this technique that I am going to show you. I'm going to show you how to mask. Masking means that we are stamping an image over another image on the edge or on the side, and it appears as if they naturally fall one behind the other. Let me show you on the inside of this cute card. Now we're also going to just stamp the image from the stamp set. I'm going to show you how to put that together so you know how to use the 2 penguins if you stamp them. Okay? But let me show you what I mean by masking. So I have stamped these on top of one another, but the ink does not bleed into the other because I cover them up each time with a mask. Now I want you to notice that we have Season's Greetings and we have Happy Birthday, and that's what I love about the versatility of the set. I think this is a great masculine card. It's so hard to create designs for masculine cards, and this certainly fits the bill for that. The stamp set has the string for the balloon. It has the balloon, and if you have the old balloon punch, the balloon punches works perfectly. You can certainly fussy cut the balloon once you stamp it. We have Happy Birthday. We certainly have greetings that fit this. Now, on the Happy Birthday card, it says, "To the coolest friend ever." And then on my Season's Greetings card, I put "Be cool, be chill, be merry." But I've done the same thing on the inside of both cards. And I've done the same technique. I've used the Snow Hill on both of the cards and some snowflakes. Now this color palette is it is Misty Moonlight, which is another in color. And that happens to be one of the colors in the designer paper. And so I'm going to show you a way to save some of your designer paper too. And I've used the silver cording, which is in the annual catalog. If you've been looking for it, we have gold and silver is just perfect with this color palette. I've used that Calypso Coral as well. We're using the layering circle dies again, one to make the scallop and then one to make our white circle to do our stamping and to create our focal image on the front of our card. So these layering circle dies have come in nicely with this set. Let me show you the colors that we're going to use for our, wait a minute, I'm missing one. Let me grab that. My Just Jade. These are the colors we are using to actually create our presents. Just Jade, Gorgeous Grape, Highland Heather, Calypso Coral, and Crushed Curry. Now you would not have to have all these colors. I just wanted to mix these up because I wanted to really show you this technique and show you how it works. So I'm going to be pulling out all those stamp pads in just a moment. But let me share with you the measurements for our card. This is another half sheet of cardstock, but in the vertical direction. It has been scored at 5.5. So let me say that again. 11.5 by 4.25, scored at 5.5, right down the center of this vertical cardstock. Now when I fold this over, I want to be sure that I have my bone folder and I get a good crisp edge. Now again, I'm going to have an inside piece that is 5 1/4 by 4 inches. 5 1/4 by 4 inches. We're going to do our stamping on the inside. You're going to have a piece of designer paper that is, let me give you the measurement on that. It is 3 3/4 by 5. 3 3/4 by 5. And this is the pattern on the other side. We're going to have a scrap of white. We're going to need the scrap of white to stamp our package here and to cut our circle. So we're going to cut a circle from this, and then we're also going to stamp one of the packages and cut them from this piece of scrap paper. You're going to need another piece of the designer paper, and this is the pattern on the other side. Very, very small prints, and very small prints on this side. We have our polka dots. This is 3 inches by 3 inches. A strip of paper to stamp our season's greetings. Now I've made that the exact width that I need, so I can simply stamp it and cut it off. And then I have pulled in one of the snowman prints, which you will get, and you'll also get one of, we're going to stamp this penguin, but you're going to get one of the prints from the paper that you can fussy cut if you need to. I want to do this hat. I want you to be able to do this hat. So I pulled in a print for that. Okay? So I think that's all the pieces and parts. You want to take this piece of designer paper and you want to place your circle die here and cut it out. And it's going to leave you with a piece that looks like this. But I need this scalloped background, so I'm going to cover it up with this and you'll never know. So now I've saved paper. We have that done. Now if we want, we can go ahead and attach this to our card base. And you'll notice that I have, instead of centering it, I have put it off to one side. So remember, use your glue sparingly when you're putting it on the back of designer paper or white paper, because you can see right through it. So I'm going to get this over here on this edge. I'm still leaving my margin on the top and the bottom, but I'm making sure that this comes all the way to the edge of my layer. I could, since we're working on this card, I could go ahead and add this, because I'm going to be adding my stamped circle to the top. Now I also put this all the way over to the edge. Okay, we can set that aside. Now I need to do some stamping, and we're going to be stamping our Christmas trees again. Remember, we stamped those on our shaker card in the background. So we're going to take that same tree stamp, and we are going to create a couple of trees. Now, I want to make the trunks brown. So if you have a brown marker, I've pulled in the early espresso marker. Tap, tap, tap all over. Now I want to stagger the trees just a bit. By staggering the trees, I'm giving the illusion that the penguin is up front and the trees are in the background. Tap, tap, tap all around. They don't look like much, just like that, but I'm going to take the bullet tip of my early espresso marker, and I'm going to go right over that green, and you're never going to know the difference. Now I'm able to do that because this is a dark color over top of a dark color. So that's my early espresso Stampin' Write marker, not my blends, my marker. Okay, now I'm going to direct to paper stamp my penguin, because if you have the stamp set, I want to be sure that you are comfortable using the images in the stamp set. Now, in order to do that, I need a really strong black, and I like Memento, and I really want to bring in, because this is a photopolymer stamp, really should have been doing this the whole time, I want to bring in my foam matte, my foam pierce matte, because there are some solid images in this stamp, and I want to be sure that I'm touching the paper really well. So walk this around and be sure that you get a goodly amount of ink. And I apologize for the noise. I'm going to turn this sideways. And I've got a great image on my card. All right, now I noticed that I got just a little bit of ink, but I'm going to cover that up with my season's greetings. Yay! Now, I need to bring in my Calypso Coral, because I want to stamp his feet and I want to stamp his beak. And I want to show you in this stamp set that let me show you the cover of the stamp box so that you can see the images. It's hard for you to see them because they're so small on these blocks. But here are the feet side by side, right here. And then there is I call it a beak, one that's sideways, and that's for our penguin on the inside. This penguin. Then there's the one that comes out in a perfect V. That's for this stamped image. This is really cute too, because there's even antlers. All right, so I'm simply going to ink up my little penguin feet. I'm going to stamp them at the bottom. So simple. And then I'm going to stamp my beak right at the base of his nose. And that's pretty much all there is to create my little penguin. Now, I stamped a hat and I cut it out for this penguin. I'm not going to stamp one. I'm going to actually just fussy cut the one that I have on this sheet, and we will get another one for our penguin on the inside. So again, I'm going to go right around Notice I'm moving my paper. I'm leaving that little puff ball there at the top because I am going to put a rhinestone on that. Perfect. So now, Mr. Penguin's so cute. I'm going to put a little bit of glue and we'll attach that. Love it, love it. Now remember I told you on our scrap we needed to cut out our circle. So I've cut out my circle, which is on the front here. I already had it cut out. And then I need to stamp one of the little packages. Now that is this stamp right here. I'm going to use Gorgeous Grape again. It's good, strong color, and it's a good contrast with the Misty Moonlight. I'm going to stamp it right on the corner, and then I am going to fussy cut it. Now I'm cutting really close. Normally you leave a little bit of an edge around the image, but I really want this to be a solid piece. And I love it raised up because I think it looks like it's coming out of his hand. So I'm going to use another dimensional on the back. I'm going to take my strip of paper. I'm going to stamp Season's Greetings. Now you can stamp any color that you would like. I use the Misty Moonlight, which is the base cardstock color. I stamped it right on the edge. And I cut it off and I popped it up with a dimensional. Now I'm going to leave that stamp pad open because we are going to need it to create our mask project on the inside. Let me straighten up some of these things so we can see what we're doing. All right. I think a couple of dimensionals will be good. And we're going to pop that right up on the bottom when we put on our circle. Let's bring this piece back in. We'll attach this, and then we'll put our Season's Greetings at the bottom. Actually, I'm going to move it over on this card just a tad. So your card may be different each time. We'll come back and we'll do our rhinestone and our ribbon at the end. So we need to create our snowbank. And for that I have chosen Balmy Blue. Balmy Blue ink. Let me show you how we're going to do that. This is one big die, and I want it to look like he's going to slide down and knock over that whole stack of packages because his eyes are closed. He's not paying attention. But there is a snowbank in the stamp set. Now this is narrower than my stamp pad. So I'm going to flip my stamp pad upside down and take it to the image. And I'm going to tap lightly, and you'll see the color goes right onto the clear photopolymer so easily. So I'm going to turn it at an angle just a little bit. And I'm going to do it one more time, but I'm going to reposition this so it appears or has the illusion of layers of snow. And I love that. Now I need to stamp my penguin again. So I'm going to bring back in my Memento Black. And he just looks like he's having a good old time. He's not paying attention to anything. So I'm going to set him right here on my snowbank. I'm holding that and letting the ink absorb into the paper. Perfect. Now, he has a beak, and remember I said his beak sits sideways. So I need to make sure when I stamp it, I'm right up next to the image. So let me bring in my Calypso Coral. Tap, 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 tap. You want to turn it the right way. And there we go. He has a beak. He's actually starting to look like a penguin. I love it. Okay. Now, what can we do next? We don't need our balmy blue, so I'm going to close it up. But I do need these other colors to create my masking. And I'm going to show you how to mask this present and get a stack of presents. Now what I did was I stamped one of the presents, I fussy cut it, and I glued it to the back of a Post-it note where the sticky was still on the Post-it note. So now I have a mask. Why would I need that? Let me show you how this is going to work. So I have my stamp. I have my, I believe this is my Gorgeous Grape. I'm going to get some ink on my Gorgeous Grape. And I'm going to stamp my package. Now I want to stamp one exactly on top of that, but I don't want the colors to bleed inside of one another. So I'm going to take my mask and I'm going to just below the line, I'm going to use my crushed curry now. And I'm going to turn it at an angle. And when I stamp over that edge, it's clean because I've covered it up with the mask. Now I'm going to do the same thing on the next one. I'm going to use a different color. I think I'll use the Highland Heather. Tap, 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 tap. One more. I'm going to do Calypso Coral. Now where my packages have overlapped, I have not bled the ink. I'm going to take my balmy blue that I made my snowbanks with, and I'm going to stamp some snowflakes right on this edge. I'm going to stamp some there and there and there. Now I want to stamp my greeting in the Misty Moonlight. Be cool, be chill, be merry. Tap, tap, tap. I'm going to line it up on my grid paper. going to hold it there for a second. And I have a great image. Perfect. Now I think that's all we want to do to the inside of this card. Let me get this out of the way. Now we're ready to put this on the inside of our card. But before we do that, we're going to get rid of some of these ink pads because I know what Sarah will do. Sarah will mess these up for sure. I hope that you're enjoying this stamp set. I hope that you're getting some inspiration. I have so many more projects I want to do. And I think I'm going to try to pick up some more of that designer paper before it's gone. Now, this is the side that we made a mistake on. I'm going to use my tape runner. I'm going to place this on the inside. No one's going to ever know about those mistakes on the other side except you and me. Some of the extra ink off. Now, I told you that I wanted to put some rhinestones on this side. I'd like to put one on his hat. Right on the puff ball on the top. It's just so cute. Oh my goodness. And we want to make a bow with the cording. Again, this is our silver cording that's in the book. Now, this, because it's rolled, or it's in a roll, it curls automatically. It's just, look at that. So easy to tie. And I left the tails on this pretty long and kind of let it flow around the card and do its own thing. Now, I am going to use a glue dot, and I may just tuck that tail. Get this out of the way. So I'm going to use a glue dot, and it'll be important this time to make sure that this is rolled. You want to roll it in between your fingers, stick it on the corner, and then I want to press this down, and I'll have a little bit easier time getting it to behave a little bit more. So I'm going to kind of tuck this. I like to kind of leave the tails whimsical. So that's why I like to tuck them if I can. There we go. So what do you think? We have 2 Christmas cards. You bring them back in. And we have our birthday card with a balloon. We have our 3 friends together. And last but not least, we have our shaker card. Now, I'd love to know in the comments your favorite. We've learned to mask. We've learned to do some different type of shaker card here. And let me not forget to bring in the card that I showed you on the last video. And that is this using the stripe paper, which we did not use tonight. We did use this pattern. This is from the Stitch So Sweetly dies. That's all 3 of those together. There's that snowflake, there's a bow in this penguin's hair. And this card opened up with a platform. Be cool, be chill, be merry. Just adorable. And this folds flat, goes right into an envelope, right in the mail. So I'm going to leave that laying here too. Just love it. So this is our Penquin Place Bundle, our punch, our stamp set. And remember, folks, the paper is going away. It could be gone by this weekend. I really don't know. I know inventory is not high, and once the penguin paper is gone, it's gone. So if you purchased the Penquin Place Bundle and you added some cardstock, or if you even added the snowflakes, which you could use on so many other things, maybe the ribbon, the Fresh Freesia ribbon, or a pack of bags to make the shaker cards, you would have a $50 purchase and be able to get the designer paper free. That is the only way to get the penguin paper. So let me know if I can be of help. I am offering this through next Tuesday. When Tuesday comes and goes, whomever has made a minimum $35 purchase, I will provide all of the kits for you. I'll even provide the salt and the sequins and the bags, everything you need to make these cards. I would highly recommend that you get the bundle so that you would be able to stamp the images that you need to stamp. But I will have the designer paper on the inside. I'm not allowed by Stampin' Up! Policy to stamp any images for you. I look forward to sharing some other things online with you next week, and look forward to seeing many of you on October the 2nd for World Card Making Day. Thank you for joining me. Bye-bye.